Tenny is finally getting what she deserves. I mean, my girl Sonia is giving it to her hot.
Men, we can't live without them, yet still can't live with them. Men, why we hate them. It was bad enough that I had Nancy to worry about. Now, Tenny was about to become a priority on my list, if what I was thinking was true. Why do young girls date married men these days? As if there aren't enough single men to go around. I've even heard of girls that claim only to date married men because they treat women better. Then I asked myself if those girls ever intend to get married. I don't think they'll find it funny if another woman ran around town with their husbands. Hearing what mom said just made me lose the little respect I had left for dad. I stormed out of our room angrily to confront dad. And lo and behold, when I burst into his room, Tenny was lying on the bed with dad, kissing him. Right there in our house, under the same roof as mom. I was disappointed, disgusted, and in shock. I felt betrayed. They both jumped up in shock when they saw me. Probably having forgotten to lock the door, I had startled them. Usually, I would apologize for busting into my dad's room without knocking. But this situation wasn't normal. I jumped onto the bed and started to pull Tenny by the weave on her hair, which I'm pretty sure my dad paid for. "Get out of this house!" I screamed angrily, dragging her to the floor. "Stop maltreating her like that!" my dad shouted, coming to her rescue and pulling her away. I had had enough of the madness. I picked up the bedside lamp and threw it at Tenny. Luckily, she was able to dodge and run behind my dad for cover.
Oh, I'm loving this. I'm really loving this. Tenny is finally getting what she deserves. I mean, my girl Sonia is giving it to her hot. What nonsense, the effrontery. Sonia, please give it to her. Fire for fire. Let's watch and see what happens.
"Leave the room now," my dad ordered, pointing towards the door. "I'm not going anywhere till she leaves this house," I replied, folding my arms across my chest. "Get out of my dad's room now," I shouted at Tenny. She hurriedly picked up her bag and scuttled out of the room, like a little mouse avoiding a trap. My dad followed closely behind. I called Stephen later in the evening to report everything to him as the family's first son. Unfortunately, he was out of town for a business meeting, but promised to be at the house as soon as he returned on Monday. With everything going on, the trip to Calabar began to seem even more attractive. I needed to be away from the house for the weekend. I merely called Nonso to accept the offer before he changed his mind and decided to go with Nancy. He was excited that I had agreed to travel with him. Little did he know, I was running away from my family problems. I spent the rest of the week counting down to the weekend trip. It was only 3 days until Friday, but it felt like 3 weeks. All the drama in the last few days had worn me out already. I needed fresh air, especially with the upcoming family meeting and a new project with Nancy starting the following week. The long-awaited Friday finally arrived. After what seemed like forever, I did my usual daily routine at work and even managed to finish a little earlier than usual. Of course, Sandra had to ask why I was in such a hurry, and I explained that I was rushing to catch a flight to Calabar for the weekend with Nonso. I watched her go green with envy as I told her all the exciting details of the trip I was looking forward to, adding salt and pepper to make it sound even more interesting. "I wish I were you right now," she said. "The only trip my husband has taken me on since we got married is our honeymoon." "Stop looking so sad. It's not the end of the world," I said, smiling. "Don't worry. I'll take lots of pictures to share with you," I teased. He also came to pick me up to head to the airport in a taxi minutes later. For some reason, there seemed to be a lot of traffic on our way. It looked like the whole city was also traveling that day, or had just decided to drive their cars along the route to the airport just to occupy space. Luckily, we made it to the airport against all odds, about 20 minutes before check-in was scheduled to close. I jumped excitedly out of the taxi and pulled my traveling bag out of the trunk immediately after the driver opened it. Anyone looking at me would have thought I was being chased or running away from someone. I was acting like a little kid traveling for the first time. If we weren't parked in front of the local airport, I'm sure the driver would have probably thought I was on my way to America. Little did he know that I was already seeing myself in our hotel room in Calabar, eating breakfast in bed. I had to hold myself back from shouting, "Calabar, here we come!" as I walked through the airport doors. I refused even to let the porters help me with my bag. Nonso was wasting too much time looking for his wallet to pay the driver, so I left him behind and went ahead to reserve a space for us in the short queue. A cheerful lady at the check-in desk greeted us with a smile when our turn finally came. "Where are you flying to today?" she asked. "Calabar," I replied, almost cutting her short. You could tell she was slightly startled by my rather swift response. "Calabar?" she asked, looking confused. "The only flight scheduled for Calabar today left about an hour ago." I looked at her like she was crazy. She could as well have said the trumpet had sounded and we'd been left behind. "What do you mean the flight left already?" I asked. "Is that how you behave in this airline? You zoom off before time, leaving your passengers behind?" I began raising my voice. I was about to roll up my sleeves to start a showdown, only for Nonso to tap me from behind, interrupting me. "Babes, what is it?" I asked, irritated that he was interrupting me. "We are standing at the Peacock Airways check-in desk. Our ticket says Orange Air," he said, waving the ticket in my face. I looked at it for a few seconds, and my face immediately turned red with embarrassment. I had joined the wrong queue out of excitement and was already making a scene for no reason. The lady pointed to the line for Orange Air on the right. I could tell she was trying hard not to laugh. I followed her hand with my eyes to the back of a long queue, almost reaching the other end of the hall. It could easily have been mistaken for a fuel queue in the middle of the airport. We could not make it on our flight if we joined the queue, so I stood there staring at the line in dismay, like a little child whose lollipop had just been seized. I could already see my breakfast in bed disappearing before my eyes. All my fantasies of Calabar came crumbling down like a pack of cards. The DJ playing in my head suddenly switched songs without letting me know. Welcome to Calabar chants playing in my head suddenly changed to Welcome to Lagos. I couldn't believe it. After everything, I was going to be stuck in Lagos for the weekend.
Isn't this so funny? Like, so much for weekend getaway. So our dear Sonia is going to be stuck in Lagos after all. That's what happens when you don't hear words. Because honestly, I don't know what she's still doing with that Nonso guy. Weekend getaway. Stay tuned for the next episode. If you're enjoying the story so far and you really don't want to have to wait till the next episode, then there's good news for you. The book is actually available in paperback and ebook format on Amazon and Seller. So you just need to go to Amazon and type in Men Why We Hate Them by Olufemi Idowu, and it will bring up the book, and you get to choose whether you want the ebook, paperback, or the audiobook.
For users that don't have access to Amazon, you can download the ebook on seller.co.
And you get to read these and many more exciting titles from yours truly. Men, Why We Hate Them.